Okay, hello, my friends. It is Sunday, February 16th, 2025. And in this video, I want to talk about the arms for rare earth minerals story. A lot has developed here lately. So I'll talk about what it is, and then we'll talk about what has just transpired as far as the deal goes. So in Ukraine, this is just a couple days ago, in Ukraine, a potential arms for minerals deal inspires hope and skepticism. This is in the AP. Okay, so let's just read a little bit about this. Ukraine boasts vast reserves of ilmenite, a key element used to produce titanium in heavy minerals sands that stretch for miles along the country's embattled east. It's good that it's in the east. Like if you're making deals, make deals for everything under those four oblasts that have just been stolen by Russia. Make those deals for there. Take what you want from there. Okay, much of it, as with all of Ukraine's critical minerals industry, is underdeveloped because of the war, as well as onerous state policies. So they've not had a culture of being able to get to this very easily. That is poised to change if US President Donald Trump's administration agrees to a deal with Ukraine in exchange for critical minerals for continued American military aid. So I was an enthusiastic proponent of this if you do the deal right, because this would tie U.S. interest to Ukrainian interest, and that would be beautiful if they could work this out. That's an if. Okay, Ukrainian businessmen with knowledge of the minerals industry also privately expressed skepticism about whether this deal is viable. The capital intensive industry is unlikely to yield results in years, if not decades. So yeah, it's going to be challenging. They're going to have to really work this out, and it's not an easy thing. It's not like, oh, just here's, just come and take it, pick it up and take it home. No, it's the extraction process is quite significant. Okay, the main thing that we can gain is certain guarantees obtained through economic means so that someone stronger than us has an interest in protecting us, said Andrei Brodsky, CEO of Velta, a leading titanium mining company in Ukraine. I think that paragraph kind of summarizes what the whole idea of the deal is about. If there is that deal and the US is providing weapons, and if Russia were to come back and try to invade again and the US interests were there, hey, look, this isn't going to happen. That's not okay. Okay. A deal which would essentially barter one resource for another could help strengthen Key's relationship with the Trump administration. I can see that too. The United States is a major consumer of critical raw earth minerals such as lithium. Titanium used in aerospace, defense and industry is also highly in demand, and the U.S. is a leading importer of ilmenite. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sourcing the materials or the minerals from Ukraine would also reduce future reliance on Russia and China. So that's beautiful. So it's kind of a win-win here, because you're securing getting this somewhere that Russia and China are not. You're not dependent on them for that. Okay, now here's the other side of that coin. If you don't do this, then especially over in those four oblasts that are currently occupied by Russia, then Russia is going to be able to do this. So not only do you not have the source, Russia has more. So, okay. The question of security guarantees is a sticking point for companies, Ukrainian businessmen and analysts have said. The senior Ukrainian official, speaking anonymously to describe private conversations, told the AP that U.S. companies expressed interest in investing but needed to ensure that their billions will be safeguarded in the event of renewed conflict. But once invested in Ukraine, the presence of American business interests alone might act as a guarantee. So that would be very positive. If this process starts, it will continue, Brodsky said. Once the investment figures exceed hundreds of billions, the Americans, the highly pragmatic people, will protect their profits earned on Ukrainian soil. They will defend their interest against Russia, China, Korea, Iran, anyone else. They'll protect what they consider theirs. Ukraine has never been attractive to foreign investors because of prohibitive government policies. This is a holdover from the Soviet era. Under the Soviet system, geologists stood to gain if they claimed that they have found large reserves. So that may or may not be large reserves. We just don't know. Someone did it so that Moscow would praise them. A Ukrainian geologist or Soviet geologist may have claimed more than what was actually there in order to get some kind of recognition. I'm very afraid that the Ukrainian people, this is another kind of wrinkle in this, have already disapproving reviews that everything is being given away. My read is that Ukrainians generally are like, you know what? If this will be the thing that will get us the weapons to defend ourselves, to be able to do it, fine. We're not getting those out of the ground right now anyway. Let's go do this to get that. And that seems to be what I have detected. But the high risk is often a key reason that some Ukrainian businessmen privately express skepticism of the deal. Okay, so now the trick is actually shaping the deal correctly. And what we've done so far has not been that. So this is what we found at the Munich conference, because the Treasury Secretary delivered the first iteration of the deal to Zelensky, and it was rejected. What? It was rejected. Why? Okay, well, the U.S. wanted to control Ukraine's rare metals. An official called the deal colonial. Besset, that's the Treasury Secretary, gave the document 4 hours before the meeting with Zelensky, who had minutes to review it. Besset pushed for an immediate signing, but it was a non-binding memorandum. So it wasn't what it was supposed to be. By the way, Zelensky, I mean, I know you say, well, he was a comedian, and he was an actor, and he was, but he also has a law degree. You didn't know that, did you? Okay, so there's that. Here's the Financial Times. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has rejected a U.S. bid to take ownership of around 50% of the rights to his country's rare earth minerals. Now, I don't know that that was the original deal. The original deal was supposed to be a dollar figure, but I don't know that it was 50%. And it's trying to negotiate a better deal, according to several people familiar with the matter. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent offered Zelensky the deal during a visit to Kyiv on Wednesday, which came after President Donald Trump suggested the U.S. was owed $500 billion worth of Ukraine's resources in exchange for its assistance to the war-torn country. And the way that some read this is that for what they've already given, that's not helpful, what they've already given. Now, Dmitry Medvedev was talking about this in his post. The Kyiv clown chastised Trump for everything possible. That is, the washed-up beggar and thief, that's Zelensky, spat in the giver's hand. The question is, how will Trump react? I don't think I would worry about that. I think Trump understands, but first, that's a terrible deal, and Trump should never have put that forward. And to Ukraine, I think as an American, we ought to apologize for that particular deal, the way that it was written. But Trump will understand, I'm pretty sure, that to negotiate the deal. Remember, that's how this works. So your first offer is just your first offer. You're not going to get a best kind of thing in a first offer. Okay, so Ukraine rejects the U.S. proposal demanding half of its mineral resources. The Trump administration sought 50% of Ukraine's minerals as compensation for past donated aid. Kyiv refused, demanding security assurances. The whole thing's about security assurances. Why would they take that deal? Okay, so Ukraine rejects the U.S. Proposal. This is Euromaidan Press, their article. Here's the AP again, and I'm just going to read a few paragraphs here from the AP. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he directed his ministers not to sign off on a proposed agreement to give the United States access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals because the document was too focused on U.S. interests. Zelensky's decision not to accept the proposal, at least for now, was described as short-sighted by a senior White House official. I didn't let the minister sign a relevant agreement because, in my view, I was not really going to protect our interests, Zelensky told the Associated Press. The proposal focused on how the U.S. could use Kyiv's rare earth minerals as compensation for support already given to Ukraine by the Biden administration and as payment for future aid. So there's conflicting reports. One says it's just for the past, one says past and for future aid. And the current former senior Ukrainian official said, speaking anonymously so they could speak freely. So Ukraine has vast reserves of critical minerals. For me, it's very important, the connection between some kind of security guarantees and some kind of investment, Ukrainian president told the AP. Just a little bit more, the Trump administration has grown weary of sending additional U.S. aid to Ukraine, and Hughes said minerals deal would allow American taxpayers to recoup their money that was sent to Kyiv while growing Ukraine's economy. Hughes said that the White House believes that binding economic ties with the United States will be the best guarantee of future aggression and integral part of a lasting peace. He added the U.S. recognizes this, and the Russians recognize this, and the Ukrainians must recognize this. Okay, so that's where we are. And I do believe it will tie these interests together if the deal is structured well. And that deal structured well means that you have. So I think the U.S. is thinking about this. First, they were thinking about taking way too much for, like, I just think they shouldn't have done that. Um, but if you were going to structure a deal, I think Ukraine's thinking about it as for a flow of arms to push the Russians or to fight them off to get a better deal. And I think the Americans in the Trump administration are thinking in terms of, here's a deal that after we have a ceasefire, you can have this and they won't come attack you again because we're here. I I don't know that that's very comforting. But that's where it is. Okay, here's the Washington Post has revealed the internals of the Trump administration's efforts in obtaining a signature by President Zelensky on a document ceding 50% of Ukraine's multi-trillion-dollar resources to American entities, including state-owned companies, in exchange for past U.S. assistance, which amounts to approximately 109 billion since 2022. The plan also involved granting U.S. control over key assets, which would then be privatized by American entities, effectively handing over large sectors of Ukraine's economy. So, some key points: Kyiv received the proposed U.S. deal just 4 hours before the Treasury Secretary showed up and insisted that Zelensky sign it immediately. So that's not cool. The deal itself was not cool. No security guarantees offered by the U.S. That's not cool. Senior Ukrainian advisor described being taken aback by the scale of what the Trump administration demanded. The person compared it to Europeans carving up African colonies in the 18th century. Zelensky said he wants European involvement and investment developing his country's resources, not just Washington. So that was the article from the Washington Post. And yeah, so it was kind of a bad deal. Okay, Zelensky said, I blocked the agreement with Trump on mineral rights as it does not protect Ukrainian interests. It must be legally correct regarding investments and security guarantees. So I think he was right to not do this. I think, like, what are we doing in Washington doing that? That's just, it's wrong on many levels. Okay, last little bit. Darth Putin, U.S. Russian relations will now focus on peace. Which pieces of Ukraine I get to keep? Yeah, that sounds like what's going on here. And Darth Putin again talking about, here's on February 16th, 2022. That's 3 years ago today exactly. And Black in the Empire says, when Russia never invades Ukraine, our State Department is going to take credit for stopping the invasion that was never going to happen. And he has to remove the tweet. Like that, really? Do we think the State Department took credit for stopping the invasion that was never going to happen? Turns out it happened. All right, my friends, that's all that I have. What are your thoughts about this deal? I think it could be structured well. I think it could pair interest. I think like this could be a huge key to making things work out correctly. I don't know that it will. I just don't know how it's going to play out. Tell me about it in your comments below. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.